Even after the conference ended, I still felt a bit uncomfortable. If Maria just stayed mad, we'd have to made up with each other and I could have put it all behind me. But since Maria got over it, it felt like I was the only one unsatisfied. Oh, milady, why the gloomy face? Oh, it's you. It's nothing important. Did everyone make it back okay? If they're still on schedule, they should have reached the Nijima airport by now. You've done your part well, milady. I haven't done anything. It's you servants who've done a great job. Is the argument you had with Maria-sama yesterday still playing on your mind? Sorta. Come on now, she's just a child. It's not something you need to worry about. All grown up and in high school. The stuff Maria was talking about, do you think it's all just a kid's nonsense? Oh, about Beatrice-sama, you mean? You see, even you call her Sama. Beatrice is the name of grandfather's mistress, the person he's still infatuated with. I realize that as a servant, Kumasawa-san can't speak of her indiscreetly. Still, that's now become the name of the fictitious witch who lives in this mansion. And it's almost normal for people to call her Sama. Beatrice is just a ghost story created by the adults to stop us from wandering into the forest. Maria just thought it was interesting one day and decided to pretend it was true. You'll end up cursed if you say such things. After all, Beatrice-sama exists. Come on, we both know that isn't true. I don't need George-san to tell me not to make a fuss about Santa not existing. But that doesn't mean Santa actually exists. You'll find you're wrong there, milady. Wrong? Oh yes, the gods do dwell in all things. In the same way, Beatrice-sama dwells on this island, in this mansion. Like the gods, Beatrice-sama will do you no harm if you respect her. As you say, it is as though she doesn't exist. However, if you ever fail to show proper respect, it will most certainly come back to haunt you. Of course, that can be said of more than Beatrice-sama. If there's a curse, let's see it. I just love to meet her. Oh, milady, you mustn't say such things. Milady, you were splendid today. Shannon, Goda-san, you guys know about Beatrice, right? Well, I do know of her, of course. Why do you ask? The two looked at each other. They looked like a pair who had just heard a clueless person suddenly utter a forbidden word. Let's have it straight. Does she exist? That ghost. If it's a question of whether she exists or not, I would have to say that she doesn't. Probably. I really do think she does exist. And why do you say she exists? Have you ever met her? I've never met her directly, but... Shannon talked in detail about how she would sometimes feel a strange presence or see a silhouette while doing the midnight rounds. Jessica dismissed each example as it was given, saying Shannon must have seen it wrong or be mistaken. You haven't met her either, right, Goda-san? Of course. However, well, he was being very evasive. Even a man as big as Goda was apparently unable to deny the existence of someone he'd never met. This really didn't sit well with Jessica. She was herself a resident of this mansion. They were acting as though someone else, someone she didn't know, was living here. Of course she didn't like it. Wait a sec. Tell that one again. Huh? You mean the story about the VIP room? Goda and Shannon have been recounting several ghost stories about Beatrice. One of those drew a reaction from Jessica. Yeah, that one. Sounds pretty cool. Goda and Shannon glanced at each other. They hadn't been trying to talk about anything cool. The VIP room is never to be entered at 2 in the morning. Is that the one you mean? The one about how Beatrice-sama returns to the VIP room at 2 o'clock every morning. So you mustn't go near it? Yeah, that's it. Pretty cool. All the other stories are about people saying that they heard or saw something that they thought was Beatrice. But this one isn't. This one says that if you go to the VIP room at 2 in the morning, you can actually meet Beatrice-sama. Well, I wonder. Milady, they say that servants who speak ill of Beatrice-sama will be cursed. Furthermore, the VIP room is Beatrice-sama's room. Even you, milady, should probably reconsider. The VIP room is locked now, right? Where's the key? What's the key in the key box? I think Genji-sama keeps the key by his own chair. The master key can open it, right? Let me borrow yours. Oh, I cannot do such a thing. Milady, you mustn't approach an ill-omened place without reason. Ora che faccia. Hold it. Don't you go calling my house ill-omened. Anyways, I've made up my mind. If you can't give me your master key, there's still the key from the VIP room, right? Let me borrow it. Milady. To Jessica, it was their two expressions that felt more like an ill omen than anything else. It wasn't the witch or the VIP room that felt foreboding to Jessica, it was them, Maria and the others who believed in witches. In the end, Jessica forced them to agree, and she made them bring her the key to the VIP room. A classic test of courage to see if Beatrice would really appear in the VIP room or not. Pretty much. Still, I wonder why I was so stubborn about it. It must have been because of my fight with such a little girl. Of course, the weather just had to be terrible on that particular night. To be honest, I slightly regretted sticking my nose into something so pointless. But I already said so much, and even borrowed the key from them. I couldn't just go to Shannon the next day, let her ask me how it went, and answer, well, I got scared and I gave up. That'd just be pathetic. Normally, I go to sleep long before 2 AM. If Mom found me wandering the corridors at that time of night, she'll definitely yell at me. So I waited in my room, staring at the hands of my clock as it ticked closer to 2 AM. Outside, the rain was incredible and the wind was strong. The swaying, rustling trees were particularly creepy. I'd complained to Shannon and Goda about making up ghost stories for my house, but I was starting to feel as though they had a bit of a place after all. The Ushiromiya mansion is huge. Honestly, I can't think of an entire mansion as my own house. As mom says, the hallways of the Ushiromiya mansion should be treated like public roads. In other words, my own room is my part of the home, but the hallways and the rooms I don't usually enter are outside. So while part of me felt that the VIP room ghost story was ridiculous, the other part of me was so creeped out that it kept trying to convince itself that the first part of me was right. 10 to 2. If I want to greet 2 AM inside of the VIP room, I need to have already gone in there before then. Guess it's time. Sorry, but I'm not giving up that easy. Nothing's gonna happen, I know that. It'll just be a stupid waste of time for a few minutes. I touched the doorknob to the door of my room, and I was startled by how unpleasantly cold it was. As long as I stayed in my room, I could laugh off anything. After all, this was my room, but it wouldn't be like that in the hallway. That's outside my territory. And the doorknob, the barrier between the two, was ice cold. Idiot. Why are you so scared? What are you so scared of me? You aren't taking Shannon's, Goda-san's and maybe Kumasawa-san's gossip seriously, are you? I'll prove it. There's nothing strange in the VIP room. The corridor was only dimly lit. The hallways were brighter before lights out. But to avoid wasting energy or something like that, we kept the lights to a minimum at night. So even though I was inside of my own house, it was very obviously the middle of the night here. If Mom found out that I was wandering around at a time like this to do a test of courage in the VIP room, which I'm not supposed to go in, I'd get in a lot of trouble. To make sure she didn't find out, I tried to hide my breathing and my footsteps, so the silence felt unbelievably loud. Even though it was so quiet, the eerie sound of the wind was loud in my ears. The sound of the twigs rustling, the sound of some pillar in some old mansion creaking. That was the sound like a... No, was that the sound of a beak tapping against the glass? Though it was so quiet, all of the little suspicious sounds felt obnoxiously loud. Damn, I'm an idiot. Why couldn't I have brought a flashlight at least? A flashlight to use inside of my own home? That's even more idiotic. I mumbled this to myself, hoping it would drown out the sound of the wind just a little. Then I saw it, the door to the VIP room. The VIP room was supposedly reserved for important guests. However, as far as I knew, it had never been used. None of the guests who came to this mansion had ever been given the right to use this room. Though I'd been clutching the key all this time, it didn't feel warm at all. The icy metal tormented me ruthlessly. Maybe that was a warning. If you go back to your comfortable room and hide in your bed, this night will pass like any other. Like I'm doing that. I can't give up after coming this far. The key had been freezing in my hand, urging me to turn back, but the keyhole made no further attempt to stop me. All that's left is to turn the knob, open the door, and I'll be inside of the VIP room. It's not like I've never been inside of the VIP room. Long ago I would often play hide and seek or go exploring, and this room that I rarely enter had seemed unusual and exciting. However, I got in trouble for going in and was told that this room was important, so one mustn't enter it without reason. After that, they made a rule of locking up unused rooms, and I couldn't go in anymore. So it's probably been several years since I last went into the VIP room. In fact, it might be more than a decade. The inside of the room is probably different from how it was when I knew of it. Come to think of it, even then I felt that there was something unsettling about this room. Slowly, I pushed the door open. It was light, and even after I let go of it, it kept opening by itself, as though beckoning me in. Beyond it was a darkness as thick as heavy as ink. Even the dim light that seeped in from the corridor seemed bright in contrast. Swallowing hard, I stuck my head in, feeling about for the light switch next to the doorway. This was a horribly unnatural and awkward way to do it, and all I really had to do was step inside and search for the switch from there. Unwilling to take even a single step into the room, I timidly stuck just my arm into the darkness and felt along the wall. Oh, there! Click. The switch, which was hardly ever used, felt stiff and lifeless. However, once the lights turned on, the darkness vanished in an instant. And there, exactly as it had been, as though not a thing had changed at all in all of these years, was the VIP room. The curtain and the bed cover might have been slightly different, and maybe the chairs and the like had changed too. Still, if I had to put it into words, I'd call it the feel. The stiff, lifeless feel of this room hadn't changed. If I hang around here, someone might find me. I'd rather not have Mom find me here. I readied myself, and though I hadn't ever been able to bring myself to enter this room with the lights out, I finally entered. As soon as I closed the door, I felt an oppressive, suffocating sensation. All right, I've shut myself in the VIP room. Come out, Beatrice. What time is it now? I looked around the room, but I couldn't see any clock. I'm not in the habit of wearing a watch around the house. Damn. Now I'm not sure what time it is. Still, I know it's only a few minutes at most. I try to suppress my desire to use going to get a clock as an excuse to run away from this place. Even so, just standing around like this was boring. When I looked around again, searching for something to sit on, I found something strange. What's this? It had been placed on the side table next to the bed. If this room had been used often by someone, I thought it was just one of their. I would have thought it was just one of their personal belongings, but there was no one living in this room, so it was impossible for this person to be the room's owner. What is this? An offering or something? Creepy. It did look like an offering. A small French doll was sitting on the side table. The doll's hair was gold. It was wearing a black dress. Who managed to find this doll and where? There's no doubt that someone placed the doll here to symbolize Beatrice. Does that mean that this doll is supposed to be the owner of this room or something? And as though it was an offering to that owner, there sat a small plate with several cookies and wrapped chocolates. It was all set out neatly, and there was no dust piled up on the doll. In other words, both the doll and the offerings were being taken care of on a regular basis by the servants, and kept it in good conditions along with the rest of the room. Taken care of? No, it was more than that. It felt like an offering, no, like some sort of worship, a prayer saying, "Please don't curse us." So while the doll was eerie enough by itself, psychologically it was even more unnerving to think about how it must have been kept safe and worshipped in a place like this. Stupid. Am I supposed to clap my hands together and say, "Please don't curse me"? Jessica forced herself to look away from the bizarre doll. She couldn't bring herself to sit on a bed that wasn't hers. Then again, she didn't really feel like sitting down on a chair either, so she had lost any interest to sit on anything in this room. Wandering about aimlessly, I peeked out of the window through the gaps in the curtains to stare at the dark, rainy night. What the hell am I doing? Hanging about in a VIP room this late just because the fight with Maria is still eating at me. This is beyond stupid. I'm disappointed in myself. Beatrice, huh? Just when did that strange witch start living in this mansion? Grandfather is always yelling about Beatrice. It's apparently the name of his dead mistress. People started talking about how her ghosts must haunt this mansion. There's that kid horror story about the witch in the forest, which might be a ghost story made by the adults to stop the kid from going in there. The portrait grandfather had hung in April was really striking, and there was also that weird epitaph. The creepy words on it, which sounded like some sort of ritual with human sacrifices, made the name of Beatrice all the more unnerving. At some point, those stories mixed together, and they now say that the witch Beatrice exists. I don't believe in Beatrice, because I know she's just a fictional person made by the fusion of a few horror stories. The Beatrice who was grandfather's mistress probably did exist. No, she wasn't a witch. The story of the witch of the forest was made up by the adults to prevent their kids from getting lost in the woods, but that was just a made-up story, not reality. In fact, I've heard that kids were once threatened about wolves living in the forest. Apparently, the kids realized that wolves couldn't exist on this island, so it was changed to the witch. When the portrait was hung, that once vague character suddenly had a face, and people acted as though she had been around since long ago. That's right, it's all a ghost story made from someone made, a fiction, and Maria calls Beatrice her best friend, and the servants worship her like a household shrine. I just don't get it. It creeps me out. The sudden ring of the phone made me jump so hard I thought my heart would explode. There was a phone on the bedside table across the one with the doll, and it was ringing noisily. However, I was only surprised by the first ring. By the time it had rung 3 times, I'd regained my cool enough to grumble about this being a prank done by someone trying to scare me. If I rush to pick it up, I'll probably hear someone laughing at me, saying, "Were you scared?" I thought about ignoring it instead, but it kept on ringing incessantly. It's a pretty loud sound to have going on and on this late at night. If Mom somehow manages to hear it from her room, I'm screwed.
Hey.
Okay, I've got it. Might as well say you scared me or whatever. I decided to pick up the receiver. I'll just say, that surprised me. And follow that up with, looks like Beatrice didn't show up after all. After all, this is my victory in a sense. Hello? Hi, Beatrice. Maria? I don't get it. Did I hear that wrong? Why would Maria be calling here? Hello? Thanks for teaching me that fun song last time. In return, I'm gonna sing you a song, Beatrice. I just learned this one. The voice, the intonation, the manner of speech, it clearly belonged to Maria. But what's she talking about all by herself? Maria just kept on talking happily as I stood there, stunned and unable to interrupt. Eventually, Maria started singing an old familiar kids song that even I knew. I don't get it. Maria? Hello? Wait a second. Stop singing. What's going on? I don't get it. Hello? The voice, the lights, everything disappeared. In the pitch black, I couldn't see anything, couldn't tell what was happening. I didn't get it. What was going on? What the hell was that? Does being in darkness really slow us humans down so much? I know it's dark, but I really do have absolutely no idea what just happened. What was that shuffling sound just now? I'm not sure, I can't explain it. It was a loud sound like someone crawling out of a bed. I wouldn't say something as non-committal as I felt like I heard it. I wouldn't say something as vague as I sensed the presence. I definitely heard it, right next to me, clearly. However, there was no change to the bed. No one had been sleeping there in the first place, and the sheets were still perfectly straight. Someone had crawled out of the bed and had laughed in a creepy voice before leaving the room. That's what felt like. I'm here, the bed's right there. I'm not only in the same room and right next to it. So why am I so unsure about what happened just a few seconds ago? I gripped the receiver, which had gone completely silent, and waited there alone, unable to move, in a quiet room that seemed exactly identical to the one I first entered. Huh? What? If nothing had changed since the beginning, I could just pretend that the last minute or so didn't happen. However, something had changed. That would be proof that something really did happen. The hell? Where did it go? Did it fall on the floor? No, it's not there. No matter where I look, from whatever angle, it's just not there. Though the offering plate with the cookies and chocolate is still there, the thing they were being offered to, the doll, is gone. No way. Then what just happened? Is the Beatrice-sama doll supposed to have cackled out loud and left the room? No, that crawling sound was too loud to have been made by a doll. It was a noisy sort of sound, like a kid playing with a blanket and using it as a cape. Then what? Is that Beatrice-sama doll supposed to have turned into a human and then ran cackling from the room? No way. After all, nothing happened. The doll alone disappeared and nothing else changed. The VIP room that had remained completely unchanged and was filled only with the sound of the wind and rain, and I stood there too shocked to move. Did you ever find that doll? I looked everywhere, even under the bed. I literally crawled in there looking for it, but I didn't find it. Just what do you think happened in that room? I don't think it was actually Beatrice-sama's curse. It might have been a prank done by the servants. A prank? Maybe they recorded Maria's voice on a cassette tape or something ahead of time. They then called exactly at 2 AM and pushed the play button. They could have cut the power at the breaker or something. Then someone who had been hiding in the VIP room beforehand would make a creepy laugh, take the doll and leave. If that was how it happened, everything does fit. Doesn't sound like you're really convinced it happened that way. I mean, can you blame me? I mean, if that was just a prank to scare me, it was way too elaborate. They made Maria sing beforehand and recorded it. Then someone called the VIP room and replayed that recording. Then someone waited until exactly the right time and tripped the breaker for the VIP room. Tipped. Tipped or tripped? Tripped, okay. To turn off the power to the VIP room, you had to go down in the basement. There's a breaker box down in the boiler room. There's no phone line down there, so you need a different person to play back Maria's tape. And you'd need another person to hide in the VIP room and cackle before leaving. And just how long would this last just how long would this last person have to hide in the VIP room beforehand? How long would they have to hide in the pitch black VIP room under the bed, for example, waiting to scare Jessica, who might or might not come? There's no way it could be a witch's curse. But still, imagining that so many people planned everything down to the slightest detail and waited for several hours in the darkness just to scare me, to me that's even creepier. I agree. I'd much prefer a curse. Did you ask the servants about that later on? What's the point? They would just play dumb, of course. And there have to be at least 3 of them. On that day, only Genji-san, Goda-san, Kumasawa-san and Shannon stayed the night. So 3 of those 4 helped out with that creepy prank? Doesn't make sense. That's why I couldn't ask about it. True, it had been a strange experience for her, but it wasn't something completely impossible for humans to do. Even so, it really must have been more unnerving to imagine a large number of people planning so carefully just to scare Jessica. It's no surprise that she found this scarier than Beatrice's curse. Do you still believe the servants pulled the fast one on you? No. I probably just freaked out and mistook what I saw and heard. The doll probably just fell somewhere and I just had trouble finding it. Are you trying to say that you imagined the whole thing? Other than the doll disappearing, there was no other proof that anything had changed. Later on, I talked to Maria and said that she didn't know anything about the song or the phone call. I don't know if she was lying or not, of course. Anyway, what happened that night is just something I thought happened, and there's no proof of any kind. That's ironic. Even if you had met Beatrice directly, you wouldn't have been able to prove that either. For a while I was pretty rattled about it, but as time went on I began to think that lightning or something had just sucked off the power for a second and spooked me. And maybe one of the trees in the garden fell while making a rustling sound, which I mistook for someone crawling out of bed because I was already scared. And the laugh? Maybe some strange bird. Anyway, I might have misheard something to get that sound. I act tough, but it turns out I'm actually an unbelievable coward. That's why I let my imagination get a hold of me. I decided to think about it that way and kept firmly repeating it to myself to help me forget everything that happened that night. So, it all remains in darkness. People are actually pretty good at forgetting things if they try. Even since that night, I felt uncomfortable every time I hear the word Beatrice. But I try hard to not let it show on my face. That is all. I can't tell you any more than that. It's really embarrassing, so please, don't tell anyone. I didn't want them knowing what a huge chicken I was. You got it. I have one last question. About the VIP room? No. About the dining hall. The dining hall. On the day of the family conference just before your ghost story, all of the relatives were gathered in the dining hall, right? Ecco. Qualcuno di voi mi sa che ho capito dove vuole andare a parare, qualcuno di voi l'ha già detto prima. Yeah. Except Butler hadn't come back to the family yet. Everyone else was there. Everyone except grandfather, of course. And ENG wasn't in the room because of her stomachache. Her seat was next to yours, right? Wasn't it? Yeah. Was that the seat to your right? Yeah, the seat to my right. Why does that matter? Wait. That's strange. Why to the... That's enough. Try not to think. You'll just get an headache. What's up, Jessica? Why the confused look? Well, right, left. You're so weird. How is it going, Will? Have George Nissan and Jessica told you anything useful? A bit. That ghost story about Beatrice was pretty fun. Ghost story? What are you talking about? The one about Beatrice's ghost appearing in the VIP room at 2 in the morning. Pretty scary story. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that. I don't know who put that out there, but that'd be really rude making up ghost stories about the woman our head is indebted to. A model answer. What? Do you know about the epitaph, Leon? Epitaph? What epitaph? The epitaph by Beatrice's portrait. My apologies, but I have no idea what you mean. Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved home of old. Just what are you talking about? So, in your world, no, in this world, the portrait exists but not the epitaph? Of course I know about the large portrait of Beatrice hanging in the entrance hall. But I haven't heard of this epitaph. What is it? That's a very interesting difference. You've lived on Rokkenjima all your life, right? Of course. What's your point? When you were a little kid, were you warned not to go near the woods? Yes. They always say to stay away since it would be dangerous if you got lost. Because a witch lives in the forest? A witch? What witch? The Golden Witch, ruler of Rokkenjima's night. Beatrice. Beatrice is a woman to whom grandfathers owes a great debt. Don't you think it's a bit rude to treat her like a witch or a ghost? You don't know about the witch Beatrice? I know about the Beatrice who came here in a submarine along with the gold, and about her daughter who was raised in the hidden mansion. We just learned about those two together a short while ago, right? Where does a witch come in? I see. So that's it. Then how did they scare you to keep you from going into the woods? They say that wolves lived in the forest. Not a witch, but wolves. Of course. Very interesting. It isn't interesting to me. What are you talking about? What is this witch? I'm just talking to myself. I'll have one more question. Please, go ahead. During the family conference, who sits to your right at the dining table? My little sister, Jessica, sits across from me. The next in rank is Aunt Eva's son. So, George Nissan is the one on my right. What's your point? I get it. It's all mashed together in a confusing mess. But it is interesting. I don't have a clue. Ok, quindi è un casino. Abbiamo alcuni personaggi come Will, che ovviamente... Oh, here's the culprit, ok. Abbiamo alcuni personaggi che sono completamente esterni alla storia, come Will, ok? Quindi lui non sa, per esempio, di Leon. Abbiamo alcuni personaggi come Shannon e Canon che non conoscono Leon, e Leon che non conosce Shannon e Canon. Abbiamo dei personaggi, però, come Jessica e Maria, che conoscono Beatrice, conoscono Shannon, conoscono Leon qui, ma nelle storie Leon non c'è. E Leon non conosce la leggenda della strega dorata. So, did you figure out who killed Beatrice? Yeah, more or less. I hope you're not going to suggest that the head killed her. Ben Castle isn't asking about the two Beatrices involved with Kinzo. She's talking about who killed the 1986 Beatrice. I'm not really sure what you mean by these years, Beatrice. What's all this about a witch called Beatrice? You mentioned a ghost story. You've mentioned an epitaph. Isn't it about time you explain all this to me? All right. No point in stringing you along. Let's start from the beginning. Who is this witch Beatrice? Strictly speaking, it isn't a person. Beatrice, the Golden Witch, is the name of a concept. You mean the ghost stories themselves? To be more specific, even the ghost stories are only one of the elements that create the concept. Oh, you've lost me. Ghost stories are normally told in the third person or second person. However, someone started telling those in first person. You mean someone started saying that they were Beatrice themselves? The legend of Rokkenjima's evil spirits and the made-up story for keeping kids out of the forest. These two were combined with Kinzo's constant cries of Beatrice, Beatrice, and gradually became the legend of the witch. Ushiromi Maria became entranced by that fictional witch and begged for a chance to meet her. And then someone granted her wish. Still not following, but I'll just nod and tell you to keep going. What do you mean by granted her wish? Because of the unfortunate way in which Ushiromi Maria was brought up, she became obsessed with the occult. Someone felt sympathy for her, acted the part of Beatrice and played with her. Maria tends to recognize people by their behavior instead of their physical appearance. When Rosa becomes violent, Maria calls her the Black Witch, and all of these times Maria views her as a different person, not her mother. So, this means that she tends to think of the same person as different people depending on their behavior. We can use this to see the scene where Maria first met Beatrice in a new light. After being chased out of the mansion by the adults, Maria decided to drink some tea in the rose garden. At that time, someone probably started talking to Maria. Then, when they heard this occult-loving girl talking happily about how she wanted to meet the witch Beatrice, this person acted as though Beatrice was possessing them. On the outside, they didn't look like Beatrice. However, the manner of speech and behavior changed abruptly. However, when their manner of speech and behavior changed abruptly, Maria would recognize them as a different person. That's why her appearance was so sudden. We can probably view Maria's love of witches and the occult as a form of escapism. She believed that the power of witches could change her unfulfilling and incomplete life. So she wanted to believe in them. Because if she believed in witches, she could also believe in her own happiness. It's true that Aunt Rosa is bringing up Maria by herself, and that she is always busy with work. I do feel sorry for Maria, but still, don't ignore the heart. So, Maria believed for the sake of believing. She believed in Beatrice's simple conjuring trick from the bottom of her heart. That probably comforted her a lot. And at that moment, the witch Beatrice was born. Someone saw that Maria-chan wanted to meet a witch, so they decided to play witches with her? That's right. Soda. This marks the birth of Beato the Elder. All of that about living 1,000 years and being bound to Rokkenjima, that was all the result of mixing the legends of Rokkenjima's evil spirits with the story of the ghost wandering the mansion at night. As Furudo Erika guessed, the two ghost stories fused. Someone used the two stories together and acted the part. So Beatrice held traits from both ghost stories, and she was the master of the mansion's night, while also feeding spider webs. So, when Berkastel asked us who killed Beatrice, she means who killed the kind person who pretended to be Beatrice? That's close, but not quite. It's not the one who pretended. We are talking about two different people. In Maria's eyes, just like how her mother and the Black Witch are different people, Beatrice and the person who played that part are also different people. Just like Mariage Sorcière, that was where one person would be the creator and the other person would acknowledge their creations, thereby nurturing the illusion. The Golden Witch Beatrice was also created by one person, and then nurtured when Maria acknowledged her. You mean, even if you killed the acted character, that doesn't mean you've killed the kind person who was also playing the part? Even if Beatrice's vessel is lost, it isn't the same as Beatrice being killed. It's easier to understand if we use a telephone as an example. Let's say I call you on the telephone. From my perspective during the call, the phone is you, in the sense that it's what I talk to. But what if I destroy the phone? I see. If you kill the phone, you won't be able to talk to me. But that doesn't mean that you've killed me. We know Maria once offered to let Beatrice possess her early on in their relationship. That clearly shows that Beatrice did not look like the portrait at that time. So, if the person acting the part and the witch character they play are different people, we are talking about killing just the witch character itself. Is that even possible? Only the actor can kill the character. In other words, the person who killed Beatrice is the person who played the part of Beatrice. You mean that the person who played witches with Maria-chan is the culprit Bernkastel is talking about? That's it. But, as if this wasn't confusing enough, this chapel is now a world inside of a cat box. The culprit is the cat, and there are now two cats existing at the same time, one alive and one dead. Confusing is right. I'm still lost, but keep going. You're saying that there are two culprits? Right. The person who can create and kill Beatrice, and the person who never gave birth to Beatrice in the first place, who can kill the entire concept of Beatrice. Adesso ho capito. Both of those people are here. Then let me ask, in this Beatrice murder case, who are the two culprits? Let's start with the dead cat. Who is it? You. What? The logic is extremely simple. Your world is the only one where the witch Beatrice doesn't exist. I don't understand. Both Maria and Jessica told me stories about the witch Beatrice. However, when they talked about the ranking system at the dining table, you weren't there. wasn't there? Maria came to visit Rokkenjima with Rosa, and Rosa was sitting next to her. That's impossible. If you exist, then after Rosa comes you, then Jessica, then Maria. There should be two people between Rosa and Maria in rank. In that case, they should be across the table from each other and separated by one seat. In other words, in the world where Leon exists, it's impossible for Maria to be sitting next to Rosa. It was the same in Jessica's story. If you're included in the ranking, then when looking down at the table towards Kinzo's seat, you should be on the left side and Jessica should be on the right. After that comes George on the left side and ENG comes on the right. Jessica and ENG will be sitting next to each other whether you are there or not. However, which side of the table they're sitting on changes. In the world where Leon exists, ENG's seat is on Jessica's left. However, if Leon doesn't exist, then ENG's seat is on Jessica's right. Every time someone talked about the witch Beatrice of 1986, they were all talking about a world where you don't exist. And in your world, there are no ghost stories about a witch. To you, Beatrice is either Kinzo's mistress or his benefactor, not a wandering ghost. The head loved Beatrice deeply, did he not? I can't imagine why she would be made into a ghost story. Exactly. If you exist, the witch Beatrice doesn't. Your existence kills Beatrice. Are you saying I'm the culprit who killed Beatrice? That's just crazy. How can I be the culprit if I don't even understand her and have never met her? Flip it around. If you don't exist, Beatrice will be born. Flip it. Are you trying to say that Beatrice and I are two sides of a coin? That's a good way to put it. That's it, exactly. You're a coin and Beatrice is on the other side. I don't get it at all. At first, I didn't get your existence either, but I have formed a theory about you after hearing all this. The important fact is that you're 19 years old. I don't remember telling you my age, but you got it right. How? Jessica said you were already the student council vice president when she started, and that you became the president the next year. That means you're 1 year older than Jessica. Jessica is 18 years old, so Leon must be 19. I see. And what sort of theory can you make now that you know that I'm 19? You aren't Ushiromiya Natsui's child. That's the theory. How rude. I don't know what game you're playing, but I demand that you take back this slanderous insult to both me and my mother. Why are you the successor to the headship instead of Kraus? I will succeed the headship when I come of age. When I have a kid, I'll probably pass the title down to them when they come of age. Then why didn't Kinzo give the headship to Kraus when he came of age? You heard what our head said. He was used by the cunning elders of the Ushiromiya family and suffered much. That's why he decided that only young people should inherit the headship from now. In the world without you in it, the silver ring for the successor to the headship doesn't even exist. That silver ring on your finger proves that Kinzo has a strong desire to see that you become the next head, a desire which does not manifest in any other world. I can't deny that you may have a point there. The head always seemed to adore me particularly. I was told from a young age that I would succeed the headship at once when I became an adult, and that it was very important for me to keep up with my studies in preparation for that day. But I don't think my father was any less talented. Why did grandfather skip over him to make me the successor? I thought it strange from time to time, but since it's always been that way, I never said so aloud. Do you know why Kinzo wanted you and not Klaus to become the next head? How could I know? Are you trying to tell me to stop ignoring the heart again? Tell me, what deduction can you make about how the head's heart works? It's because you're the child of Kinzo and Beatrice. Well done. There was a crisp applause and a mocking laugh. Bernkastel? That was faster than I expected. I thought you'd let me play a little bit longer. Bernkastel appeared sitting on the altar almost as though he had become her own personal chair. When did you realize that Leon shared Beatrice's blood? As soon as I realized that Leon was 19. It was the same number as the baby from 19 years ago, that hint which appeared in the 5th game. Didn't that baby fall off a cliff? Leon is the baby who was accepted by Natsui and didn't fall off the cliff. In other words, if Natsui rejected the baby, Leon doesn't exist. You're saying I'm not Mom's child? That's insane. You say that, but you don't look too sure. That's right, Ushiromiya Leon is not Natsui's child. This is the grown-up version of the baby Kinzo got from somewhere 19 years ago. Not somewhere. Leon clearly shares Beatrice's blood. The proof is the silver ring, which is only ever given to Leon across all of the many worlds. Why does the ring prove that I share Beatrice's blood? In all of the many worlds, you are the only one who is given it. That means that in all worlds, you are the most important person to Kinzo, second only to Beatrice. And his love for you is far greater than it is for his son, Kraus, or his granddaughter, Jessica. And you are 19 years old. In other words, if we look back to see what happened 19 years ago, we are led to one theory. 19 years ago, what's supposed to have happened at the time I was born? You heard it too, didn't you? Today, even. Will was with you. You don't mean Aunt Rosa's story? That's right. Rosa's story came out in the 3rd game, and when the age of the baby in the 5th game matched that date, a certain theory became possible. The fact that Kinzo brought a baby from somewhere and tried to add it to his family proved that the baby was somehow important to him. The Ecuadorian's Beatrice's child? The Ecuadorian Beatrice was the daughter of the Beatrice who came in the submarine. But Kinzo didn't think of her as a daughter. He believed she was the same person, Beatrice reborn. When that reincarnation reached the same age as the first Beatrice and truly looked like Beatrice's double, Kinzo made a terrible mistake. That's one way to put it. I don't want to hear it. That's how it is. Kinzo got Beatrice pregnant with Beatrice. And then he got that Beatrice pregnant with you. So you're both Kinzo's child and Beatrice's grandchild. If we consider Kinzo's heart, this is the inevitable theory we reach for explaining why he treated you so specially. He regretted his mistake so badly that he attempted to have you formally accepted into the Ushiromiya family as a descendant. In almost all cases, Natsui's pride is brutally hurt and she refuses to raise you. Because of that, you almost always fall from that cliff and disappear. I was told that after the marriage I was born after much hardship and that Jessica was born the next year. If you really never suspected that Natsui wasn't your mother, then you should thank her in this world. The reason you never realize the truth is because she's shown as much affection as you as she did for Jessica. There's no need to thank her. After all, it took a staggering amount of effort just to find a fragment with you in it. Mathematically speaking, there's actually 2,578,917 to 2,578,917 chance of her refusing to raise you. You should probably be thanking me for creating this miracle, not Natsui. Ah, scusate, è vero, ho messo 3 zeri in più. 2,578,916 to 2,578,917. Ok, ho aggiunto 3 zeri in più. My bad. Ho reso Natsui 1000 volte più stronza. Ok, quindi una possibilità, facciamola così, una possibilità su 2.578.917. Ok. Enough with your stupid probability games. Oh, I'm sorry. No matter whose blood you bear, that doesn't change the debt you owe to the family that raised you. I realize that. Still, I would like some time to calm down and think things through. That is, if you'll do me the kindness of not ignoring my heart. Sure. Leon took a deep breath and looked upwards. Anyone would be shocked to find that their parents weren't who they believed them to be. But all the same, Leon, you're allowed to feel grateful. Grateful to the family who raised you and met your every need. It is pretty interesting. Hard to believe that the Golden Witch Beatrice might have lived such an ordinary life. Even at absurdly low probabilities. Isn't it? I think moments like this are hilarious. Will had said it plainly. Ushiromiya Leon is how the Golden Witch Beatrice appears in a different world. The baby Natsui rejected 19 years previous. If she accepts that child, this is the future that results. However, if she does not accept it, a witch is born. The baby whose birth was not celebrated becomes a witch. Leon is the dead cat. However, Leon's existence has nothing to do with what you're interested in, the Rokkenjima serial murders. In other words, Leon is the cat that disappeared when you opened the cat box. Exactly. Leon is just a disappearing cat. But this was a pretty entertaining diversion, don't you think? You're the one who finds it you're the only one who finds it entertaining. If I wasn't trapped in here, I would have been bothered. I wouldn't have bothered to reason this out. I think I know why I was chosen to be your partner in this strange detective game. It seems that this Bencastel witch enjoys toying with people's fate and making a mockery of them. Wow, incredible. It's rare for someone to understand me the same day they meet me. Apparently, I become something that's called a witch in another world. And apparently, I'm the cause of some sort of crime. Is that my sin to bear? Of course it isn't. You are you. How things would be if the coin were flipped the other way shouldn't matter a bit. Shouldn't matter a bit. Thank you. Even so, to be told that I caused some sort of trouble in a world of a different fate, I don't think anyone would be pleased to hear that. Please tell me, what do I do in that other world? Bencastel. You have the fragments. Why not show them? Will opened his hand and something that looked like a pale blue glowing shard of crystal appeared there. It contained the memories, no, the records of all of the games so far. Touch this. You'll be able to see your fate in other worlds. I'll be happy not touching it. It's what your face is telling me. Of course. I'm sure you guessed this, but it isn't pretty. Even so, even if it is another world, it's still about me. You have both the right to know and the right not to know. If you can convince yourself that what you're seeing is a person similar to you, yet different from you, that is not you but someone else, then go ahead and touch it. You want to know, don't you, about the path that fate could have chosen for you? I ask this as your partner. Would you show that to me? As your partner, I'd say look, but as a friend, I say don't. Unfortunately, I'm not your friend. Then as a partner, I have one last question. What? Are you a man or a woman? Well, that came out of nowhere. I could see you as a fairly slender boy, but then again I could also see you as a no-nonsense sort of girl. Even Bencastel had been intentionally keeping it a secret. She made Jessica call you the future heir all of the time instead of big brother or big sister. You are quick. People often ask me about my gender. It's becoming quite frustrating, so I always give the same response. Which do you think I look like? In the 5th game, you are treated as a man, but in countless other games, you're thought of as a woman. In the 6th game, when Ushiromiya Butler was the master, 2 demons of different sexes appeared, but we didn't know which one was which, referencing this again. In fact, strictly speaking, it all started all the way in the very first game. Your gender is one of the hidden mysteries that exist outside the game themselves. Having to say it straight out frustrates me, so I won't give you an answer. We're partners, right? Does it really matter if I'm not the gender you'd prefer? Right. If we are working together on this, I don't care what your gender is. Thank you. I formed a bit of a complex about it, so your words are very gratifying. I'm all for gender equality. If someone is a waste of space, I'll smack them no matter who they are. And of course, I'll pinch rude people no matter which gender they are. No, ok, pensavo va a toccare, ok. Slowly, Leon reached out and touched the fragment. A moment later, Leon seemed to undergo a violent bout of dizziness and simply slumped over like a puppet with its strings cut. It was no surprise when people who don't understand parallel universes have many different fates jammed into their heads. They tend to feel like their heads are swelling and their sense of self is melting away. Leon seemed to have lost consciousness. So, Leon had what it took to learn everything. A perfect piece to be your partner, wouldn't you say? I'll continue my reasoning. I talked about the dead cat. Very true. Next up is the living cat. The only one who can kill the Beatrice of 1986 is the one who created her. There were tons of hints. If you think about it, they've been coming since back when Beatrice was running the games. That's true. In the fourth game, between Beatrice and Butler, Beatrice's origin became clear, and at that point, I learned who Beatrice was, and I understood that person's heart. What do you mean by heart? The reason for committing the crime. The reason that Beatrice had to gamble her own fate in the commission of the game-like crime on October 5th, 1986. The motive. Impressive. So, you'd figure out the who-done-it and the why-done-it by the end of the fourth game. Then, what about the how-done-it? Once you know who the culprit is, theorizing about the how-done-it isn't impossible. Those locked rooms in the third games were so skillfully done, I felt like clapping. And what about the riddle at the end of the fourth game? Who am I? The culprit who can kill you for certain at the stroke of midnight on October 5th, no matter where you are. It was possible to form a certain kind of hypothesis at the moment the question was asked. You might call that the other treasure of the Golden Land. Home? So you say that by the fourth game, in other words, with just Beatrice's games, you managed to reach all of the answers? It's possible. Lambda, Delta and Butler's games after that were just an extra helping of hints. As is this game of yours. In that case, why don't you stop beating around the bush and just tell me, who is the culprit? At that moment, though there hadn't been anyone but them in the chapel, quiet footsteps rang out. The silhouette figure slowly walking up to Willenberg Castle. That silhouetted figure slowly walked up to Willenberg Castle and gave a small bow. So you've come. Did you call this person here? Yeah. Who done it? How done it? And why done it? I understand this person's motive. And you are going to give up just because he's found out your motive? There's no concrete evidence, right? And you could make a flashy fight of it with red and blue. That's not what they want anymore. The person nodded slightly. Their wish was for someone to realize. Now that this had happened, they had no intention of engaging in trivial excuses or pointless word games. I believe that I understand your motive, your heart. I'm going to talk about it now. I called you here to listen and correct me if I've gotten anything wrong. The two of them nodded to each other once more. I found the message you put in your 4 games. And through 3 games with different masters, I pictured the strange sort of fate that must have toyed with your life. I was left speechless. In every game, you die without revealing that truth to anyone. Having you confess in this empty chapel might be pointless. However, even so, I believe it will bring you some sort of measure of salvation. People are only saved when people are only saved when someone understands them. It's time someone forgave this pitiable witch who went years after her death without being understood, and whose life ended before the one man she wanted to understand her could do so. At the end of the 5th game, Butler finally understood. However, it took him so long that he didn't make it in time. So even though she is alive here and now, Butler cannot save her. That is why he is absent from Beatrice's funeral. He won't come. He won't make it in time. This is Beatrice's funeral. You will confess. The Divine Master will hear, and I will forgive you. That's supposed to be Butler's job, but he didn't make it in time. So you'll have to settle for me. Beato gave out so many hints too. Lambda also gave that bonehead Butler a ton of hints. And his response, that game of repentance, that was hilarious as well. But I won't be making anyone laugh. I'll just indifferently carry out your funeral. No more talking from you. That's my job. If you're ready, let's begin. No one will rush you. Bencastle has closed off time for eternity until your funeral ends. You have endless time to prepare yourself emotionally. The shadowy figure slowly shook its head. He had come here because it was already ready. Will nodded to show he understood. Then the two of them looked into Bencastle's eyes, and Will spoke out clearly. He's the culprit. Madonna. Let it be heard. I am one, yet many. What I speak is our tale. However, this is a small world, sealed by glass and cork, with no one to hear. None shall lay eyes upon it, and my entire tale shall be sealed away, set adrift in the sea of my heart, until it disappears along with the seaweed. Where is this place? And who am I? Then let me ask, where would you like it to be? And who do you want to be? Any place, so long as it will blanket me gently. Anyone, so long as I am treated kindly. Yes, for us. For us. Where and who we are hardly matters. Indeed, to us that is a very insignificant thing, at least until that day comes to pass. Why must we be cast into a new fate? and the pronouncement of fate arrives sudden and abrupt. It is not the fate I wished for, but it did make the heart pound. Where will the new fate take us? It doesn't matter where, as long as that place is kind to us. The tidings brought to the temporary dwelling where unfortunate children without mother or father gather. Do they herald God's salvation, or does the devil beckon us to be the playthings of a new fate? We have no means of knowing, and yet we want to believe. We want to believe that it is gospel, good tidings and salvation offered us by God. But why would I be chosen? I have no religious beliefs. Then this is not the gospel. The devil beckons. And yet we have not the means to resist fate. Oh, I am one, yet many. I pray that the new fate brings us blessings. The time is April of 1976, a month too cold to speak of spring. There is no change in the strange new land, which ever plagues us with its stale air and ceaseless breezes. Act 1. A new life. Devo cliccare? No. Those are all of the family rules. They may be strict, but I believe that the discipline you learn in this house will serve you in the future. Yes, madame. The servants who would start working this April are called out in unison. The rules of the Ushiromiya family are no more or less strict than those at the Gospel House. However, here we get paid a lot of money. They also give us a lot of help in finding our next job. We work for the Ushiromiya family, store up money, use their influence to get a good job at a good company and start a new happy life. That was the dream, and it was a very realistic one, held by all of us at the Gospel House. However, not everyone can become an Ushiromiya family servant. Only kids with a record of exemplary conduct and good grades are recommended. So, all of the kids who want to be sure of leaving the Gospel House to live a happy life are feverishly devoted to their studies. That's enough for today. Tomorrow, you start early. Make sure the lights are out at the appropriate time. That is all. Yes, madame. Thank you very much. After bowing until Natsui was no longer in sight, the new servants all followed the lead of one of the more experienced servants and raised their heads. Okay, we are done for today. Starting tomorrow, you'll be following your shift schedule. Madame is very strict about time. If any of you sleep in, it'll be my responsibility. So if you do, I'll kick you awake. Got it? Of course, this experienced servant was one of the older girls from the Gospel House. She's been here for 2 years apparently. That's probably why all of the new servants, who are older than me, seem to know her well. They all chatted noisily, saying things like, "Madame looks so strict," and "Dang, I'm tired." By the way, just who is this? Who chose this kid to be a servant? The older servant pointed at me and asked the room at large, a dubious look on her face. It's no surprise, really. Most of us become servants when we graduate middle school or high school, but I'm just starting elementary school. The others will be working as servants every day according to their shifts. However, I was going to go to the elementary school on Nijima with Milady, only working on the weekends and when I had free time. It was an exception among exceptions, something that had never happened before. It was clear at a glance that the others, who had obtained their position after a rigorous selection process, didn't like the fact that I was here too. Both Madame and Genji-sama had told me that you are to put your studies first, but you're still getting paid. That doesn't make any sense. If you're going to talk behind someone's back, at least do it behind them. She didn't even try to hide her discontent. Is this kid really that smart? A child prodigy or something? Beats the heck out of me. I didn't know this kid at all in the house. They kept this one separate, apparently something to do with a weak constitution. Now that you're here, you're part of the collective responsibility system. If you screw up, it's the same as everyone from the gospel house screwing up. Make sure you don't, okay? I nodded weakly. I'd never been threatened by someone this much older than me, and I was very frightened. Don't worry, I'll help you through. Let's give it our all together, okay? Shannon smiled at me and spoke. Don't you find it scary, Shannon? This house looks pretty strict. No, there's nothing scary about it. It's only scary to you because that's what you think. Then, if you think it's fun, will it be fun? Yes, it will. So, just like before, let's put on a smile and give it our all. Shannon was my only friend in the gospel house. She was confident and popular, the complete opposite of me. I was embarrassingly dull-witted, and no one wanted to be my friend. I wonder, I would never have made it through these days in the gospel house had it not been for her encouragement. So I would probably make it through here too, with her by my side. Well, isn't it about time we got ready for bed? I've got work early tomorrow morning, but you have a different job. That's right. Unlike everyone else, I have to go to school. When I spend the night on Rokkenjima, I have to get ready for school and wait for Milady at dock. Milady looks like an energetic person. I hope you get along well. Do you think I will? I'm scared of school, nervous. I had grown used to the life in the gospel house, so the more relaxed rules at the school made life easy. But until I grew used to it, everything was new and everything made me nervous. My new life on Rokkenjima probably deserves an explanation. It was completely different from the comfortable yet stagnant life I'd lived at the gospel house. In addition to the time I spent as a servant to the Ushiromi family on Rokkenjima, I also traveled to the elementary school on Nijima on school days. It was the start of a time that was both rushed and busy, with hardly any time to relax. Unlike at the gospel house, I didn't get to sleep in the same bed every day here. Half of the week, I sleep in the servant quarters in the Rokkenjima's mansion. I would return from school with Milady, go to the mansion and work there as a servant. I would then stay the night and head to school with Milady again in the morning. On days when I didn't have work, I would return to the dormitory on Nijima, where I could have some time to myself in the room that had been assigned to me. There was an adult dorm mother who strictly controlled meal times and lights out, but I was already used to that sort of life from the gospel house, so it wasn't hard for me. The rooms were slightly larger than average and housed 3 people each. However, either because of the number of people or some lucky chance, I was not given a 3-person room. It looks like we'll share a room back here in the dorms too. With Shannon by my side, I felt like I'd be able to manage well enough. Correct. Every year, new servants came from the gospel house, replacing some of the old ones. It was something Father organized with them all on his own. The rest of us weren't allowed to meddle. Our family provided a strict upbringing for these children without relatives and supported them on their path to adulthood. I always viewed this as the wealthy Shiromiya family's obligation to society. For what sort of kids came to serve the Shiromiya family? I'm sure they were diligent, lovely kids of irreproachable conduct. It seemed to me that there were a lot of glaring hyenas among them. Let us say that they had high ambitions. Those poor children without relatives, they were determined to use this rare opportunity to launch their careers so they would take control of their lives. Did all of them have to balance school and servant work? Oh, that must be tough. You wouldn't be able to get much work done. There has been no case of a servant going to school while they worked, except for that child. To be honest, I was fairly surprised that when that child first came to greet me. So obviously young. The others were all around 16 or 18 years old, but that child almost looked 10 years younger. The young servants who came from the gospel house visited only to gain experience in working in the real world, so I do not expect a high level of skill from them as servants. Very true. You can't rely on them at the same degree as an adult, seasoned servant. But this was a child who hadn't even started school. No knowledge of housework, no practical experience, and yet to begin compulsory education. I don't know what Father was thinking, but I always thought that there was something clearly odd about it. I spoke to Father about it. I asked if it might be better to wait for our servants to graduate middle school before having them serve here. And what did Kinzo say? Come on, we all know what he said. By that time, he was already a complete shut-in inside his study, obsessed with the occult. If you try to talk to him, he'd yell and tell you to stop interrupting the journey of his mind. And Father's decisions are absolute. However, the case with this particular child just didn't make sense. I even asked the gospel house about it. They said to ask Genji-san. I then asked Genji-san, and he said to ask the master. And then you asked the master, and he said, Beatrice! No one knows the truth. Jessica was the only child on the island. The servants would often play with my daughter, but she wanted a friend of her own age. Someone she could play with at home as well as at school. I began to think that Father had employed this servant out of pity for Jessica. But if that were the case, why wouldn't he talk to us about it beforehand? We should be the ones to decide which friends are suitable for our daughter. Oh, scary! Natsuki wouldn't cope well with taking her kid to the playground. We should probably view this as an arrangement planned by Genji. Yes, probably. Genji-san knew that the me in this world carried grandfather's blood, so he must have made special arrangement for that me to be brought to Rokkenjima. Are you feeling okay now? It was a really big shock, that's all. I just feel a bit dizzy now. In the world we are in now, you are the successor. But if your world had been different, you could have been a servant or maybe a witch. You do have a troubled fate. Seriously, I don't regret learning about it, but if I could forget it now, I would. Oh, isn't it interesting? Even though you're a servant, you're actually the illegitimate child of the head. Isn't that romantic, like some fairy tale? Romantic? Considering how mother must feel, I'm not so sure about that. True. In Natsu's eyes, the Leon of this world is nothing more than the detestable baby she was ordered to raise. And this is also a world in which she refused that order. Natsu's natural child, Jessica, is hundreds of times more precious to her. A baby that doesn't share your blood is nothing more than a dirty, lukewarm sack of filth. Have some decency. Next time, I'll be the one pinching your butt. Thank you, Will. I think I understand more or less. This makes it all the more important for me to be grateful to Mother. She raised me fairly all of these years. Though at a probability so low, it'd take a miracle to happen. You know, animals are always brutal towards children that don't carry their blood. Lions do that too, don't they? Genji's thinking must have gone something like this. This is a true member of the Ushiromiya bloodline. I want this child to live on Rokkenjima, if at all possible. However, he couldn't suddenly bring Leon over and tell everyone everything. I agree. Maybe he intended to have me live on the island until I became normal, and then reveal until it became normal, and then reveal everything when the chance presented itself. However, the Leon of this world was not given special treatment. Notably, the silver ring doesn't exist. I wonder if that means grandfather never heard about me. It might mean that Genji never found a good opportunity to reveal the truth. Genji must have wanted to someday tell Kinzo the truth that the child of his beloved Beatrice was still alive. However, revealing this truth would not be so easy. I wonder why it isn't easy. You dummy, what would happen if Natsui found out? Alright, if Leon suddenly appeared, Jessica wouldn't be the successor anymore. Strictly speaking, Jessica wasn't the successor to the headship, but since she'd be able to select the successor, it all came to one thing. But since she'd be able to select the successor, it all came to the same thing. It is a tale that becomes less simple the more one learns of it. Some would celebrate my birth, others would not. Genji could only wait in silence for the day of revelation to come. Was it a tale hidden only within Genji's heart? Leon and Kinzo and Natsui and Kraus and Jessica and everyone else. None of them knew of this tale. Thus, the curtain slowly rise on this curious tale in the year 1976. Oh, I am one, yet many. Why must fate proceed so selfishly and freely, leaving us behind? People only found the young servant strange for the first month. Natsui's and Krau's protests came to naught. After all, there was no harm in it. So why not indulge Kinzo's whim? Eventually, everyone grew accustomed and began to accept this slightly abnormal everyday life. However, it was not so for the other servants of the gospel house, who were always close by and who believed that everyone should be treated equally. As time went on, their little grievances about my special treatment began to accumulate. Good job, Sawachi. How it go today? Madame was in a really shitty mood. She literally ran her finger across the windowsills. Tadachi got chewed out for cleaning too slow. Like, what does she want from us? The gospel house treats all the children under its care as family. Because of this, their original names are not spoken here, and everyone uses new blessed names instead. Maybe because the in on nonne character in the world gospel, che è lo stesso qua, qui alla fine. That character is almost always combined with at least one character from the child original name to make their new name. Still, just giving a person a new name doesn't mean they'll accept it so easily. The boys and girls of the gospel house, living without relatives due to all kinds of circumstances, often feel as though their real first and last names are a bond that's worth holding on to. So, many of the gospel children hate their own names and call each other by nicknames based on their original names. Of course, this is only privately. When in the presence of the house director or other important people, only the blessed names are used. On the job, their blessed names are used. And off the job, the informal nicknames are used. Everyone is very used to living with two names like this, and they're all natural at switching between the two. You stink. Go take a shower. Dang, why it's so cramped in here? Can't you get a bigger dome if they have that huge mansion? Hey, Garashi-san. Why Yasu's the only one who isn't in a 3-person room? By Yasu, they probably mean me. I can't remember my parents at all, but I was given the family name Yasuda. And apparently my nickname comes from that. How should I know? Genji-sama is the one who decides the rooms. I don't like it either. Yeah, seriously. Wouldn't you normally split it with 2 and 2? What's it here with Yasu anyway? It's like that kid's job is going to school with Milady or something. A school friend position? It doesn't make any sense. Of course, on days when I am given work, I return to the mansion right after school and work alongside the others. I help out with caring for the garden and cleaning up the mansion. I can't do any jobs on my own, so I'm always just helping out. Maybe because I'm young, the adult servants are always kind to me. It seems that my fellow gospel house servants are annoyed by this. Don't you think Kumasawa-san is being blatantly soft on Yasu? It's like she's mistaken Yasu for her own grandchild or something. Why on earth does that kid get paid the same as the rest of us? I don't get it. I realize that you have school to worry about, but don't forget you're a servant too, okay? You need to stop being a helper and learn to do work by yourself like the rest of us. We aren't going to let you have things easy forever, okay? I have been trying my best. However, I'm not very strong yet, so I can't carry heavy things. I can't carry a lot of things at once either. I can't fold clothes right, I'm not good at using a dustpan. I just can't do it as well as everyone else. As my face turns red, I spotted Shannon, who was watching from the sidelines and not joining in. Shannon is my only ally. Unlike me, she can do everything well. However, she'll never pamper me. She'll show me how to get things done, but she'll never steal my jobs from me. She really is incredible. I really want to be like Shannon as soon as I can. She never talks behind people's backs, and no one talks behind her back. She is kind and she gets along with everyone. I want to be like her. And she's always kindly watching over my efforts to become like her. Why did I end up here? I don't know. Though I'd just been muttering to the ceiling, Shannon gave me an honest answer. I guess there's no way to say it except it's part of God's plan. Is this another test from God? Yeah. To think of it as a test to help you grow into a wonderful person. After all, you're a special, chosen person. Am I special? Of course you are. After all, everyone else here is big, but you were the only one special enough to be chosen young. Why am I the only one who's little? I can't do any jobs by myself. Everyone complains that I'm just there to play with Milady. And yet, Madame made it clear that I'm not to think of Milady as my friend and speak to her in a casual manner. You may be 10 years younger than everyone else, but that means if you keep up until you're the same age as the others, you'll be much more experienced than the new people who come later. Even Genji-sama will acknowledge your talents, and you'll become a leader who can teach the new kids who come from the gospel house. And then, I'm sure that everyone will respect you. But by that time, even Madame, the Master, and Kraus-sama will acknowledge your skills. That's your future. You mean like the ugly duckling becoming a swan? That might be it. After all, it was very unusual for you to be chosen as an Ushiromiya family servant. In fact, that rumor might be true. And you might be the secret child of someone in the Ushiromiya family. Shannon left, saying, "Wouldn't that be cool? And then you'd be super rich too." But I felt a bit doubtful. After all, if that was the case, why did I even have to live alone in the gospel house? Shannon and the people like the house director were the only ones who would play with me. I wasn't allowed to play with any other friends, and I spent all of my time by myself in my isolated room. Maybe it's because I'm frail and I'm always half asleep, but it has been lonely. Hey, Genji, how much of this did you know? You never talk about anything, but you've known everything since the beginning, haven't you? 19 years ago, you heard from Natsui that a servant had fallen from a cliff holding a baby. You went to the bottom of that cliff and realized that the baby was still alive, didn't you? The question of whether it was alive or dead was not one that I was qualified to answer. Then who was? The doctor, of course. What do you say, Dr. Nanjo? Perhaps it is fitting. Shall I speak? If you will be willing, then I ask it of you. Very well. I was contacted by Genji-san immediately after the accident, and I was asked to conduct an examination in secrecy. In secrecy? Why? Both the Beatrice of Quadorian and her child were unregistered people who weren't supposed to exist. It would lead to various problems if it went public. I had started the procedure to have the baby registered, but they were not complete at that time. It was a very bad time for the baby to die. So, the servant who fell was treated as the only death? Natsu, he wouldn't talk to anyone. It would have been easy to set up. But the baby was alive, wasn't it? Correct. Of course, the child was gravely injured. It was a miracle that he survived those injuries. If some angle had been slightly different, or if Genji-san had been any slower in bringing the baby to me, that baby only managed to survive thanks to a series of miracles. I had given up. I didn't believe the baby would survive. But he did. How strong and resilient is life? No, this is fate. Fate. So the baby was fated to live on and eventually accomplish something great? Yes. I did think that it was fate. I thought that the blood of the Quadorian Beatrice, whose life ended on Rokkenjima, must have imparted something onto this child to make it survive. However, Genji did not tell his master, Kinzo, that the child had survived. He simply said that he had fallen to its death in an unfortunate accident. Kinzo mourned, but his mourning was more of one of madness than of sorrow. Oh, Beatrice, why have you run away from me once more? Why, even though I swore I'd never make the same mistake again? Why? That was one matter for which Genji did not trust the master he so respected. That matter was whether Kinzo would be capable of accepting Beatrice's grandchild as family. Genji had served the Quadorian Beatrice for many years as well. He was very aware of what she had felt. He knew that she accepted Kinzo's affection and respected him as a father. However, her love was not the same as Kinzo's love. Kinzo fought her to be Beatrice reborn and tried to use her to satisfy the many feelings he had felt for the late Beatrice. Of course, the Quadorian Beatrice could not accept those feelings. In the end, Kinzo himself, the one she respected and thought of as a father, stole away her chastity. She thought he was her father, and he thought she was his wife. Oh, what unmanageable, forbidden love! I do understand Kinzo-sama's feelings to some degree. It is not as though Kinzo-sama saw the late Beatrice-sama in the girl at the time of her birth, nor did he decide at that moment to make her his plaything. He spoke to me about it a few times when we were drinking. I always thought he was just joking. As she grew up, he was surprised to find that she looked more and more like her mother. As she became older, did he suffer from a forbidden emotion he could not suppress? I thought that the tragedy might repeat itself. That was my view. Beatrice-sama suffered much. And ultimately, she never truly understood the difference between her feelings and Kinzo-sama's. I spoke with Beatrice-sama many times, listening to her deepest feelings. However, I could not bring myself to tell her the truth. And that would be hard to say. Imagine telling her that the one she respects as her father wants to use her as a replacement for her dead mother. Let me say this for the sake of Kinzo-san's honor. He also suffered greatly. It pained him when he found out that he could no longer think of his daughter as a daughter. I told him to love her as a father. I think Kinzo-san listened to reason and his conscience and fought for some time. Kinzo loved her. He poured his affection onto the daughter that Beatrice had left behind. He did so as a father. And yet, if so, why did he give the daughter the same name as the mother? Yes, Kinzo's sin started from the moment she received life. Beatrice gave birth to her and died as if in exchange. He passed the name down from mother to daughter. From the moment of her birth, Kinzo had already decided that she was Beatrice reborn. Leon, in other words, is what happened when Kinzo, trying to atone for his sin, succeeds in bringing the child into the Ushiromiya family, officially. Exactly. I get the feeling I'll get my butt pinched if I talked about other fragments. But maybe there's one where Leon is accepted and Kinzo commits a tragedy. Who knows? Wanna see if we can find out? You want to see something like that? Is it your job to mix together the worst imaginable possibilities for every part of a person's life and laugh at their horrible fate? Unfortunately, that's the sort of demon she is. Which, thank you. Genji foresaw the worst of all possible futures, and, trying to secure a better future, he intentionally lied about the baby being dead. Right. Kinzo was a man of such burning desire that he took advantage of his own daughter. Genji, who knew Beatrice's feelings and felt sympathy for her, couldn't trust Kinzo so easily. So even Genji, Kinzo's most devout servant, Genji is a man who can draw a clear line between the professional and the personal. While he served Kinzo faithfully, he also felt that the mistake Kinzo had made with his daughter was not one to be forgiven easily. Probably. And to make sure that Leon wouldn't be found out easily, Genji lied about the kid's age, lowering it by 3 years. You're right. In this world, I'm just starting elementary school in 1976. I was actually supposed to be a 4th year then. If your frailness wasn't the reason, then Genji must have been careful to disguise the year of your birth. The baby from 19 years ago was unforgettable, not just to Kinzo, but to Natsui as well. If a suspiciously young servant of that age came to the island, Natsui's feminine intuition would definitely have picked up on it. Had the child been too sickly to go to school for 3 years? Or had the age been faked so that Natsui wouldn't figure out everything? Either way, we know that your age has been lowered by 3 in this world. Correct. The age of this world's Leon has been altered by 3. This is a small, feeble kid we're talking about. An underdeveloped kid. It seems he was surprisingly easy to fake. Genji thought he should wait and see. In the end, would Kinzo be able to accept Beatrice's child as his own as his offspring or not? Had he had the child live in the gospel house until a suitable age, and then summoned the child to the island as a young servant. Neither father nor child knew the other. Genji's thinking was as follows. If Kinzo truly did possess the affection of a parent, he would notice traces of his late mother and daughter in his child. They would surely be able to regain their parent-child relationship without the truth needed to be revealed to anyone. That was his belief. Or perhaps the time might come naturally. When that happened, he could tell the truth to both father and child. Believing that this day would eventually come, Genji told nothing of this to anyone. He watched over Beatrice's child, waiting for the fated day. And time continued to pass. Days slid by as he quietly watched over Beatrice's child. Perfetto. Stavo aspettando un momento per concludere. Vediamo se c'è Claire tra i personaggi. The first friend. Ok. Intanto salviamo. Characters. C'è Claire, c'è. I servant ci sono, non ci sono i servant. Leggiamo Claire comunque. Sì, non c'è... Ah, sono tornati Zephyr e Furfur, giustamente. Non hanno niente di diverso. Qua... scritto niente? No, ok. Leggiamo Claire. Allora. Created by Ben Castle to be a reader or else a substitute actor. Technically, she is a vessel used to personify Beato and her game. Therefore, she has no personality of her own. In that sense, perhaps one could say that she is not a person, but a tool. Her name signifies her position as the final guide in Beato's game. E è San Bernardo, giusto, che è l'ultima guida di Dante nel paradiso. Quando Beatrice raggiunge il suo cielo definito, per portare Dante tra i cori celesti e i cieli più alti, viene San Bernardo. E tra l'altro, se ricordo bene, l'avevo letto su Wikipedia qualche giorno fa questa cosa, Claire è il nome nel mondo reale della moglie di Willard H. Wright.